I've been rejected on national TV with potentially
Yeah.
millions of people watching. I mean, it doesn't really get much. If you want to say that's embarrassing or a lot to lose, whatever you want to say, like, it doesn't get much more significant than that. So, I mean, if I can handle that, then before it even started, I had, I thought it was possible. It's like, it's possible I could win. This could be the big break I've been looking for that I deserve. After I got eliminated, it did stick with me for a while. Like, it kind of felt like I got my heart broken in a weird way. I think the most important thing that I learned is that I want to be saying a lot more like yes, being receptive, saying yes to opportunities instead of saying no for fear that it's not going to work out. It comes down to like being willing to take risks, being willing to put in some extra work that somebody else isn't.
Hey, it's Michael Trans. Entrepreneur in Action is where we dive into the lives of entrepreneurs who master the four F's: finance, fitness, family, and fun. Today's guest is Erik Thornally, CEO of Saturday Sweets Candy, who's growing his candy business that brings health conscious European candy to the US. I think you're going to love it. Welcome to Entrepreneur in Action. Erik, tell us about your business.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the introduction. Like you mentioned, I am the founder of Saturday Sweets. Saturday Sweets is a brand of authentic Swedish candy. So it's made with a lot cleaner ingredients compared to traditional American candy like the gummy worms and gummy bears. So it's on that better for you spectrum. But most importantly, it's the best tasting, most delicious candy that most people will ever try. And part of that is because it's made with much higher quality ingredients. And the Swedes just know how to do candy. They actually eat the most candy per capita out of anybody in the world. So of all the countries that know how to do it, they're leading the way.
How did you find out this secret? Like, not everybody knows that Swedish candy is the best in the world. How did you discover that?
I gotta I gotta owe it to my genetic hand. That's just pure luck, honestly. I'm half Swedish, so my mother was raised in Sweden, and because of that, growing up here in the Bay Area, I was born and raised in the Bay Area, but I would visit my family in Sweden once every year or two growing up. So I realized that after I got out of college and had a real passion for entrepreneurship, I thought about like all of the memories that I had when I visit my family in Sweden, and my favorite part of the trips was always the candy. Like my brother and I would go to these candy stores, and they had this deal where you could get a whole like tub of that was for a fixed price, and you could stuff as much candy as you could fit in there and kind of clamp it down like when you go to one of those Mongolian barbecue places and you load the bowl up and it's like a mountain of food. Kind of the same thing with the candy. So it just made me so happy when I was young, and I was so grateful that I had those experiences because that's what really inspired me to want to introduce Swedish candy to the United States here and through a brand that can be available in nationwide stores.
Then so when you got the insight, right? When you realized this was so much fun for you, it's a cherished childhood memory, like, and that you wanted to bring it here to the US, how did that happen? How did you go from getting the idea to where you're at now?
Yeah, a lot of supply chain questions, a lot of tough questions that there's no fancy way of getting around it. I feel like one of the things with entrepreneurship in particular that people try to glorify it, especially in the early days, where I solve a lot of my problems and get answers to my questions through simple Google searches. So I remember when I was trying to figure out, okay, how do I get a candy made in Sweden into the United States here under my own brand and do something that's never been done before? And when you're trying to do something like that hasn't been accomplished before, you're creating your own path and you got to get creative in how you find answers to questions. So as basic and kind of silly as it sounds, I still solve a lot of my problems by simple Google searches, and really just following up with people. It's a lot of getting rejected, getting doors closed in your face, and getting creative with how you're going to solve these problems. But that's what you have to do. You have to overcome those kinds of adversities and be relentless in your pursuit when you're that serious about doing something that's never been done before.
So you had that drive and you knew like this is something new. You felt excited, you had energy to do it, and you wanted to do it. And then like what were some of the hurdles? Like where were you hitting your head against the wall, like trying to like break through those problems?
In the very beginning, back in 2020, when I launched the first version of Saturday Sweet. So it's been around for about 4 years now, but it looked a lot different back then. It was a lot smaller, and honestly, nobody really knew about it or even cared about it. But back then, I had some issues with consistently getting enough candy on hand to fulfill the demand. And that's honestly one of my biggest struggles now, especially with this year of Swedish candy being viral on social media. And not just my brand in particular. I've definitely received a little bit of increase in traffic, but more of like these videos about creators going to Sweden and some of these Swedish candy stores here in the States where you can purchase candy. Because of that, there is such a significant demand in Swedish candy now. Like stores want to carry it, people want to buy it and test it out for themselves. That I'm still having a tough time consistently building my supply chain to meet the demand for the candy right now. And I've, because of that, I've had to turn down some pretty good sized orders. And while it's a great problem to have that you're selling out or that there's so much demand for your product, it's also not the right way to scale a business. And I'm trying to think more bigger picture of how can I take it from what it is today versus what I want it to get to. And this is one of the biggest problems that I have to figure out in order to make that happen. Because realistically, as much as I love the business and how happy it makes me, I know it can be something a lot more profound and have a much bigger impact on so many more people if I can figure out some of these supply chain issues to bring it to hopefully thousands of stores across the country instead of just a couple hundred that we're in right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I hear you, and it makes perfect sense, right? That it is a great problem to have. I don't know if you've watched a lot of Shark Tank. I always, whenever I watch Shark Tank, it's like, yes, that's the best problem you can have. I can't keep up with demand. People want to give me more orders than I can fulfill, right? And then because then the sharks are like, cool, well, I can, just all we have to do is add money, For them, it sounds like an easier thing for them to buy into. So what do you like? What are your thoughts on like how you're gonna approach solving these and other problems in your business? And then like, would you ever like go on Shark Tank?
Yeah, Shark Tank was definitely one of my big inspirations before I even started the Saturday Suites. Just from an entertainment purpose, like my brain has resonated and connected with the entrepreneurial mindset and getting creative and like always wanting to be proud of something that you created and built yourself that had never been done before. So I think that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from too, is that wanting to be wanting to keep that like childhood vision alive and to really be proud of myself and go into a store one day and be like, oh, that on the shelf right there, like I made that, I created it. That'd be such a cool feeling. So I'm getting there, but I think that with business in general, not just related with Shark Tank, but any kind of capitalization opportunity, it can certainly be a huge catalyst for a brand, especially like mine, where I'm bootstrapping myself. It's just me working on the business right now, and it's got a lot of momentum heading in the right direction. But at the same time, there's so much that I don't know about running a business that, as confident as I am about myself, I don't want to be foolish and have this ego and be like, no, I don't need help. I can do it by myself. Because I realize that there's so much value to get from people who have gone through a similar journey and have achieved the outcome that I'm trying to achieve for myself. So I'm very open towards a capitalization, towards an investment opportunity, towards getting the right kinds of advisors. But I also know that it's not the only answer. Nobody really knows the business as well as I do. And just because you throw some money at it, it might help some problems. But at the same time, it's also going to open the door for a lot of other things that I may not have expected before, because now there's shareholders, there's investors, there's people to report to. There's if they want to take the business in a direction that I don't want to go into, then how do you navigate that situation? So it sounds great, and it is great. I'm sure it can be great in many ways, and I'm definitely open to exploring it. But at the same time, I don't think it's the cure for everything.
I think that's very wise. I think so. Just because you have money, and like you said, an investor comes with their own input. So they're going to have words that they're going to tell you, and those words are powered by the money that they're investing in you. So there's a contract, but then there's also that sort of directional sway that they can have on the company. And I hear you, like keeping it as a solopreneur or keeping it smaller for a time can be a real value, so that you can build not just knowledge, but also keep building the brand and keep building the product and solving all the problems you can solve without outside money.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that when you do it the more patient way, like I have such a big passion for health and fitness. I'm a real, like, particularly bodybuilding. So a lot of my experience with business, I kind of translate into gym analogies. So one thing that I've noticed in my experience with gym and fitness is like, you can expedite results and you can get crazy results by kind of cheating the system and taking some steroids, taking some drugs that can help you in the way. But if you do things like naturally and the right way and really know what you're doing with your diet, with your routine, and like do it the proper way, you'll still get there, even though it takes a little bit longer. But you have such a much stronger foundation now that you've built up by doing it the right way. And I feel like with an investment, it can kind of be looked at in the same lens of, it can be a catalyst. It can get you those results pretty quickly. It can create a lot of hype and build you that dream body like very quickly. But at the same time, it might make your infrastructure a little more fragile. And if you're just not ready for it yet, then that could be a mistake in the long run. So I'm evaluating myself too about like, when is the right time? Because especially when you're in your earlier stages of a business. You don't want to give up so much equity when it could be worth a lot more down the road. So it's definitely something to think about and figure out also what other kinds of financing options exist out there. It doesn't have to be an investment for equity. It could be a loan. It could be credit. It could be all kinds of stuff. But you just got to figure out what's right for you.
Yeah, that's true. Not every investment comes with a percentage of the company. As you said, you could get a loan, you could get credit, and there's pros and cons for everything. Um, Tell me, so we've heard, right, Saturday Sweets candy, right? And I've looked at the website and it's beautiful. The product, the marketing looks wonderful, the branding. And so it's better for you and it's better tasting. What does that mean?
Yeah, so that means that I like to think of candy as a spectrum, especially now with the interest of there's so many more better for you options. I call them like the smart sweets, Project 7, Lily's. A lot of these companies are making zero sugar, high fiber, low calorie candies. But from my experience, they don't really taste that good. They don't really satisfy my sweet tooth. And I think there's a great niche that those candies solve, a real problem for these certain type of people. But the reality that I've learned and I've experienced is that most people just love regular candy, like good tasting sugar candy. And that's where on the other side, as especially here in America, we're used to the gummy worms, the gummy bears, the Sour Patch, and they taste sweet. That's what we think of with candy. But we don't realize that there's a better quality candy out there that we just haven't come across yet. And that's where exactly where Saturday Sweets fits into the market of on, this side, you have your traditional candies, the gummy worms and gummy bears. And on this end of the spectrum, you have the better for you stuff, the smart sweets, the lilies. And Saturday Sweets is like the perfect medium between the two, where you get some of the better for you aspects of it being GMO free. There's no high fructose corn syrup, no gelatin, no trans fat. A lot of the candies are naturally colored or plant based, like the list goes on and on. But then you also get the real satisfaction of eating authentic quality candy. And at the end of the day, that's what most people, I believe, want. So it's the perfect blend between both of those worlds all in one. And a good reference that I've seen, like to equate it to another kind of product, is that Coca-Cola. So this, for the soda, here in the States, we have it's sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. It's got the fake caramel color. But then when you get the Mexican Coca-Cola recipe, it comes in a glass bottle. It's made with real sugar. It's got natural colors, and you can taste the difference. So most people, when they have that Mexican Coca-Cola, especially for the first time, they're like, ooh, this one's so much better. Like, I only want to drink this one now. Versus the American recipe, what we're all used to, it's good. It's still Coke, like everybody loves it, but we don't know that there's a better version that exists out there. And that's exactly what Saturday Sweets is for candy.
Yeah, I yesterday I went to Chipotle and I got a Mexican Coke with it. And I always get a Mexican Coke. And and it is because I prefer how I feel. I noticed if I drink a normal Coke, I'll feel afterwards, I'll feel like kind of like I don't know, I ate something weird, which might be the high fructose corn syrup or any of the other things that are different between the two formulas. But if I drink a Mexican Coke, I still feel really good afterwards. Like, how do you notice that showing up for when you like the candy that you eat? Like, what's your energy level like? And then what have your customers seen in their like energy levels? Do they get a positive effect?
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you made about how you feel, because in all transparency, I don't hear a lot of feedback on how people feel, but people are certainly aware of the better benefits or the lack of the opposite, the lack of the really bad ingredients and stuff. And I think that over time, that can certainly make an impact on how you feel. I think a big part of it for me is just mentally, like I feel better about myself when not only when I eat a better quality candy like Saturday Sweets, but when I'm eating cleaner consistently, when I'm having less cheat meals and the pizza is my weakness. So like sometimes I'll have pizza a couple times a week, but I feel better when I don't. And even though I have such a big passion for health and fitness, and people are starting to become more aware of how valuable our health is, we still like to indulge from time to time. And I think that's a really big point that Saturday Sweets wants to communicate with its audience too, that we're not telling you to never eat candy or to only eat the super clean, low sugar, high fiber candies, because the reality is that we want to celebrate special moments, and be allowed to like indulge in our favorite foods and treats from time to time. So that's what Saturday Sweets tries to communicate with its audience, that, hey, it's okay to have a little bit of candy from time to time. Maybe not every day, not a whole bag every day, but I'll have a few pieces with my pre-workout when I'm getting ready for the gym, or when I'm watching like a show and just want to relax at nighttime, like a couple times a week. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can certainly be a balance between the two. And that healthy balance is where you physically feel good and mentally too, because then you're not so restricted on having like the toughest diet and having no leeway in real life because it's if you can't stick with it for months and years at a time, then I don't think it's worth doing even for a little bit.
Yeah, it has to be a life that you're living, right? And life involves having some fun and having a treat. It's not just like a lifestyle where you're just going to change for like 6 weeks and then your body will be perfect and then you can go back to your old life and then
Mhm.
eat whatever and your body's going to it's not going to stay perfect in that case. So like you said, stick with it for months or years. So you set up a system where you're getting fun out of it. You can enjoy some Saturday sweets when you're on your pre workout or watching some shows. Where do you find your fans are? Like how do your fans like find Saturday sweets?
Yeah, people are discovering the brand primarily in retail right now. So for most of this year, wholesale has been the focus. We're getting a lot of wholesale interest, especially with people with the virality of Swedish candy on social media. So we're getting some pretty significant interest in wholesale. People going to stores like looking for Swedish candy. And one thing, really cool thing about candy in general, not just Saturday sweets, is that candy can be such of a strong impulse buy. So, for example, when you go to the gas station to fill up your car and you walk in, throw some cash on the pump, maybe you grab a soda and a drink, or a soda and a bag of candy or a treat. You weren't really expecting to make that purchase, like that candy, but maybe you see something at the register that catches your eye. You're like, oh, that looks new. Let me pick it up and see what it is. So candy in general is such an impulse product that when people are in these stores, even though they may not know of Saturday sweets when they walk into the door, um, it catches their attention, particularly with the branding, the colors, the style of the packaging, just the feel of everything when they're holding it in their hands. And that's kind of how they initially get hooked. Things are getting pretty busy where I wish I could be doing more like social media marketing for the business, but that's kind of taken a back burner. I'm trying to figure out how I can be more consistent with that because I know how valuable it can be. But I would say right now, most people are looking for better for you options for products that they love and enjoy on a daily basis, and candy especially being one of those. So even if they're not aware of Saturday sweets already, when they go into the store, they're certainly attracted towards a lot of what they see.
And what stores are you in now? Like what types of stores or what chain of stores are you currently in? And then like where would you want to be next if you were
Yeah,
going to wait one and expand?
yeah. So the biggest account that I have right now is with Showcase. Showcase is a chain of about 100, 150 stores in the Northeast in Canada. They specialize in like viral and trending products. A lot of them on social media or just kind of almost like an as seen on TV store. And they have carried Saturday Sweets since 4 or 5 months ago. And then we are in about 300 stores total. So most of it being showcased. The other kind of big chunk of it comes from all kinds of stores through Fair, which is the online platform where mom and pop shops, like cafes, bookstores, gift shops, they can all discover Saturday Sweets and order and ship it directly to them. So that's where another big chunk of our stores come from. And then we also use this other wholesale channel called Rep Rally. And Rep Rally is really interesting where they have reps, like commissioned reps that sell your product to stores in their territory. So they primarily do like convenience stores right now, and they're headquartered in New York. So they have the biggest presence in New York. So there's about 100 to 150 stores in the New York and Brooklyn area that also carry Saturday Sweets through Rep Rally. So that's the current kind of retail landscape. I think in the long term strategy is to have more of like a nationwide retail presence through a bigger chain, like a Safeway, Vaughn's, Ralph's, even the Sprouts or Whole Foods would be a great option since it is more of a premium kind of price point as well as cleaner ingredients. So I think those kinds of specialty stores could be a great fit as well. But we live in such a modern time that people are buying products in ways that we'd never expected 5 years ago. TikTok Shop is exploding. I mean, on Amazon, there's all kinds of ways to sell, and it doesn't have to be the traditional brick and mortar route. And in many cases, I wouldn't even recommend it to stores or to brands with how expensive it can be and the amount of effort it takes to maintain. So I think that the end goal is to get into nationwide retail. However, I know the journey to achieve that point is likely going to be made of all kinds of other creative channels and outlets.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me because what I think is really cool is that you are able to do it at a smaller scale before you roll it out to Ralph's, Safeway, Vaughn's, Whole Foods, and you're able to like do the whole business even at a smaller scale, and then learn all kinds of things such as like figuring out your supply chain, right? Like that's a problem that you're working on. Even at the small level, you still like, it sounds to me like this is actually a real issue that you're really working on. And then, but once you fix that, and maybe there are other issues as well, but once you start fixing those issues, then you can be ready
Mhm.
when it's time to expand because you've already addressed some of those problems. It's not like you're, you know, you you've just sold it on your own stand on the street and then now you're trying to go to Walmart. You're ramping up your business in a way that is very manageable still as a business, and then you know you're you're kind of setting your next stage. Have you seen those, like it's like a bridge building apparatus? I don't know, but it like takes a piece of bridge and then it like
Yeah.
takes
Uh-huh.
another piece, you drive and you put the next piece of bridge. And I feel like that's what I'm hearing in your business. Like you build part of the bridge and then you can actually operate on this bridge and do everything you can. And then once you're fulfilled at that point, you can build the next part of the bridge and then you can like build all that out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it reminds me a lot of like that example I mean with the gym, the guy who's taking steroids in his first year or two of lifting versus doing it like naturally, learning, doing it the right way, where you can get some incredible results by taking some drugs and but then when you stop and then like you don't know what you're doing. You might have the result, but you're gonna lose it all if you have no idea how to maintain it and how to take it past that versus doing it the right way of like learning about nutrition, learning about the right way to train, making your calorie goals for the day. And like those are the kinds of processes that you described with that bridge example of going one step at a time and making sure that you have a very strong and sturdy foundation to where it can run and operate uh, well into the future when these problems, other problems are inevitably going to come up. Because even though the supply chain thing I'm kind of working out right now, I know that if I'm serious about scaling the business and to become that nationwide retail brand that I believe it can be, it's an inevitable problem that I'm going to have to figure out at some point. So might as well figure it out now. So that way, when I do cross that bridge, I am prepared for it and I won't have to step back and figure out all of the problems and ask the questions then. So I'm with you. I think that's the right way to do it where people, especially when they're launching a brand, an entrepreneur, they want to get the results quick. And sometimes you can if you have the right people, you got the money, and all things are smooth. But the reality is, that's not how it is for most of us. We don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw at a problem, to have other people, teams of people to figure out answers for us. It's yourself or you and your co founder. And you got to make it work with what you have. I've always been in the mentality of I don't want to have to get an investment or raise money in order to do something where it's reliant on somebody else in order to make my dream happen. I want to be able to start lean. I want to be able to create MVP, test it out, take it as far as I can get myself because I'm in control then. And I'm the only one that can have an impact on whether it works or not. And at that point, consider when the right time is to get some external help. But I never wanted to leave it up to somebody else's power or somebody else's money in order to make my dream come true.
Yeah, that's really being true to yourself, right? And you're letting yourself have the adventure, right? Because entrepreneurship is an adventure. Is That's definitely one way to look at it because there are always unlimited problems to tackle. And one day, amazingly, and everything's up and up, and then the next day something happens. You're like, "What has
Yep.
just landed in my lap? What am I? How am I going to deal with this?" Right? And so it's there's definitely a lot of you know, it really requires you to draw on all of your abilities to problem solve. And I mean, if you want, like we could just talk about your like, if is supply chain the biggest problem that you're facing? And do you want to go, like go deep into it and like let's just talk about it a little bit, and I can like be a bounce, soundboard for you and bounce ideas off, let you know what I'm hearing based on, like a little bit of workshop of your problem. Do you want to do that?
Supply chain is definitely my biggest problem right now. I think that there's some stuff that I'd like to keep that's a little more sensitive, so I
Yeah,
can't go too deep into it right now. But
yeah,
it is the point where I there is so much demand for this candy where if I can't figure this out, then it's going to be a tough problem to think about long term for the business. And there's a lot of pressure. There's an urgency right now where I kind of like it. I kind of like feeling like there's a lot to lose. And I think when you're living that entrepreneur life of you're by yourself all the time, it's just you're your own boss, and you're not in an office full of people. Like you don't have a direct boss to report to. Sometimes we can get lost and then lose that drive, that sense of urgency. And I've always performed better under pressure. And I think that's why I used to procrastinate so much in school and save things for the last minute because I knew I could get it done. So if I can get it done in 5, 6, 7 hours and pull an all-nighter the night before and get, still pretty good grades and good marks, why would I need to do it any other way when I know that way works? But I'm trying to break away from that because obviously it hurts you in certain situations. So my point is that I want to feel more of that pressure. I want to feel more of that. There's a lot to lose, and I believe that now because I am so vested into this. And when you get big critical problems that you need to find an answer to for any kind of business, it it can be scary, but at the same time, I think that's why it's not meant for everybody. Because there's so many times I've wanted to quit, and there's no guarantee that's even gonna work out now either. So I try to keep that in mind and be grateful for the journey, but also realizing like with anything we do, there's no guarantee that it's going to pay out no matter how long you've been around or and so you just want to bulletproof your entire operation. And that's what I'm trying to focus on.
So yeah, so the right now I'm hearing like it's the supply chain, and we can't go too deep into it right now, but it is the fact that there's a ton of demand, and so there's more demand than you can supply, that you can get product for, and it's a great problem to have. And the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is just like like what breaks your brand, like do you can you make it here, like there are people out of work, maybe your neighbor's looking for work, and maybe somebody who can make candy, like what does that break your brand? So hopefully that didn't go too deep into the supply chain issue, but I don't know what is outside of what you would ever consider for your brand, but
Yeah, and you're right. There are options. I think there's always options, and it's up to you to figure out what that best option is. I have explored kind of what you said about possibly making it here in the States, but then also figuring out, well, what's the con of that? How authentic can it be to Swedish candy if it's made here? Or is that even something that people would care about? So I'm kind of collecting all of those options right now and figuring out the best way to proceed. But sort of how, like I was saying at the beginning of the conversation, there's no easy way to do that. I mean, it all starts with Google searches, with banging on people's LinkedIn's, on reaching out to all kinds of companies and manufacturers, and it's a lot of dirty work that a lot of people wouldn't want to do, including myself either. It's not exactly some of the fun stuff about owning your own business.
when I did manufacturing at one time, it was in China, like before, like a lot of the sellers who are available on Amazon and other platforms, where before people knew like, yeah, this stuff's all available in China. I actually like went to China and like met some manufacturers because I was doing like a plush toy line and like apparel and some stuff that I was interested in learning about. So one thing that they had there in China was like they actually had like a fair, like a manufacturers exhibition with all the manufacturers, and they would come together, and then you could like meet them all face to face, one by one. And I don't know if that exists for Swedish candy. I don't know if in Sweden they have a fair where you can meet all the manufacturers face to face, but
Yeah,
I felt like that gave an edge to my decision making process because I was able to see like who who feels like someone I can trust to partner with on this, and also all the other questions I could just ask them face to face, like what's the price, what's the shipping, what's the freight, like what does it look like to test this product to make sure it's safe. I can stamp a seal of approval, it's safe here in the US, all those questions. So that I don't know if Sweden has something like that.
yeah, I'm with you. I think it's so much more valuable to have those in-person interactions, in-person connections, and also that live time feedback of you have a question, you can get an answer in 10 seconds, and then it funnels into the next one versus an email exchange or even over the phone. It can be a little bit convoluted. I don't quite know about in Swedish candy in particular if they have that, but I have been to the Sweets and Snacks Expo here in the States. I went to the Chicago one in 2023, which is this massive convention for all things sweets and snacks, junk food, protein bars, chips, all kinds of candies. It was incredible. I loved it because my favorite holiday growing up was always Halloween. Just loved getting the candy, and it felt like a game of how much candy can I get. And at this expo, it was like Halloween but times 10. Companies were just throwing full size bags at you, and walked out with like two full boxes of protein bars under my arms, and I could barely fit it all, but it was a fantastic time. So I got to see if there's one of those in Sweden, because if there is, I'm going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And is that something you would market yourself at? Would you set up a booth at the Sweets and Snacks Expo potentially in the future? Do you see yourself doing that?
I'd love to. The Sweets and Snacks Expo would be a great fit, as well as the Natural Products Expo West. which I went to in 2023 as well. That was more for like all kinds of CPG stuff, just consumer packaged goods products, cereals, even frozen foods, anything you would find in a grocery store. So not just candy and snacks, but it comes down to cost. These events are pretty expensive. I think just to have a booth at Natural Products Expo West, it was around $8,000. And then on top of the floor space, you want to have a nice display, a nice table. So a lot of companies will spend 10, 20, $30,000 on, custom signage, having all this stuff branded with their colors. And then on top of that, you have the transportation costs and the cost of product that you're giving out for free. So I had a friend who had a company and did a booth, and he told me his all-in cost was around $30,000 for just a pretty basic little booth, the smallest floor size they had. And that's just not something I can really justify at this point in the business. However, the other side of it is that you can create so much opportunity from being at an event like that. Like, you never know who you're going to meet, with how many buyers there are, how many people who represent nationwide stores and chains, and all it takes is one connection, and that could turn into a massive opportunity for your business that well outweighs the cost. So it's a risk because there's no guarantee of that, of course. But at the same time, I think it's fun. I love being at those in-person events and giving out free samples, sharing the value behind Swedish candy to people, and having those in-person interactions that you were describing before, where you can see somebody smile when they take their first bite of the candy. You can get feedback and figure out if it's something that they don't like about it. It just makes it so much easier. So I'm trying to do more in-person stuff like that, but I can't really afford to do the $30,000 events right now.
I think that there's a value to that and to holding onto your budgeting, capacity. Like, I've seen people, if we go to Shark Tank, I've seen people on Shark Tank, and the investors are like, okay, cool. So how much have you put into this business? And they're like, this many million. And they're like, that's way too much. The problem with your business is you spent too much to get this far. So by limiting your budget, you're not overspending to get as far as you're getting, which is actually, you're avoiding a big problem that way. And another thing that I thought of as we were talking about this, right? Because you love going to these events and because you love giving out, and talking to people, and I wonder if there's a way for you to sign up without like doing the $30,000 version, right? To be an attendee of some type. But I wonder if there's a type of attendee, because I've exhibited at some similar types of events in the past. And what I knew was that when I had my booth, they were somehow connecting me with buyers. And before I even got there, there were a few appointments set up. Somehow people had reached out to me before I arrived at the event through email and like said, hey, let's meet at this time on this day at the event. So I wonder if you can make that happen. So without the booth, I don't know if you could talk to the people who are running the event and say, hey, I'm somebody who has a company. I don't have a booth, but I do want to make some of those intros in person. Do you have a path for that? I wonder if that's something you might want to follow up on.
It's a great idea. And I think you're certainly right. There are probably ways to do that. And that's really the dream of what I'm trying to work towards, is to pursue and chase those sales and marketing opportunities, where right now, and for so much of this year, I've been focused on the fulfillment side of things, dropping off orders, more like operational stuff. And especially with the supply chain kind of headaches I'm having, that once I can clear all of that up, then my dream is to just spend all day on how can I sell and market this brand? Who can I cold outreach to? Who can I call? Who can I email? Who can I ship free candy to that might be interested in something like this? And let me see what it turns into. And I think that that's more of the fun, exciting side of owning a business that I want to do. Nobody really wants to start a business to get into the legal, company registration, articles of incorporation, do filing taxes, accounting. I don't think most entrepreneurs get into it for that side of the things. They want to get into it to represent and to sell something and to make some money from it too. And you're going to make more of the value driving aspects of the business through the sales and the marketing, not the other boring stuff I was talking about. So yeah, that's the dream that I'm kind of really excited for, to hopefully be able to focus on the next few months here.
I think what you mentioned is really a template for kind of like your partner, business, the next person that you might take on in your business, or what some people would have as a business partner is like, there's one person who loves doing the sales and marketing, which is what I'm hearing from you, right? You love doing like the outreach, you're into cold calling people. You want to go to the events, you want to meet people and have them taste the candy and see how they react the first time. Like that's all the stuff that you love. But there are people who love the other side of it too.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do the marketing, or they're weak at it. They might be weaker at the sales and the marketing aspect, and they're better at doing that. We could call it like drudge work, but it's dotting the i's and crossing the t's and just making sure, did we get all this paperwork done? Is the accounting right? Let's figure out all of our supply side stuff. Oh, freight, this is happening with freight, right? So that might be a way that your business grows. Maybe you find that complementary next person to bring on board who's more interested in that other part of things. So leaving you to do the stuff that you really love.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reminded me of when you talk about cold calling. So a couple of years ago, I had this tech sales job. I was traveling around the country with my best friend, and we were both working remote. I still had Saturday Suites; it was around, but I'd honestly kind of taken a pause from the business so I could be a little more mobile and travel around. So I was just an entry level SDR at some tech sales company, and I had absolutely no idea what I was selling. So I would hop on a cold call, I would get somebody to finally pick up, and then maybe they'd ask me a question or two about what we do. And I didn't really know how to comfortably articulate it because it was such a technical product. I don't come from a technical background, that I hated it. I was terrible at it. I was one of the worst performing SDRs on the team. And eventually I got laid off, which is what made me go back to Saturday Suites full time. And I'm very grateful it worked out that way. But I remember having a conversation with my manager one time, and I was telling him that, again, another example with like gym and fitness, I was telling him that I'm having a tough time articulating what we even sell and the value that we can bring to somebody. And I mentioned to him that, if I was selling something like a pre-workout, something that I know, I can tell you like what this supplement does in your body, why it's there, how your workout's going to feel different or better. If I was selling a pre-workout or some other kind of like gym supplement, I would love this. And I would think I would do so much better. But it was because I didn't have the interest, passion, or even the knowledge of what to do, how to talk to people about what I was selling. It didn't work out, of course. And I think that, like you were saying, you got to figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. You'll find people who are good at the things that I'm not good at. And that would be a great opportunity to branch out and get some help. So for anybody that's, in that same position of you're trying to do everything you can, you also got to realize when you need help. And it's a tough point to kind of consider and even figure out how you're going to be able to get that help. But that's really the difference between, I think, how you can scale a business efficiently is finding the right people who can help you.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Those partnerships, whether it's an internal partnership with somebody working with you on the team or an external partnership with another company who can, bring you what you need to move the business forward. Those are essential to get those things right. And what I really like that I'm hearing from you is that you're not jumping into any of those things, and you're not like overreaching, right? Whereas, like you've said, like you've got problems you can address now, and you're going to go ahead and address those rather than reaching for, if only Mark Cuban could bring his billions to my company and he can market this for me. And what do I need? What do I need? All I need is like 20 employees and I'll just tell them what to do. You're not trying to
Yeah.
skip all those steps. You're not doing steroids in your business. You're letting the
Yeah.
business grow in a sustainable way. I think that's admirable. Good for you, Erik. This is awesome. I love what I'm
Thank you.
hearing here. It's really cool.
Thank you. And one of the things that is so important for not just a business, but anything we do is it's about the journey, not the destination. And I firmly believe that with gym and fitness, with business. Like if you're in the gym, once you hit your goal weights, are you going to stop working out? You're just going to stop once you hit that number? Well, if you do, you lose everything. Or with a diet, like, are you just going to stop and give up on your diet one day because you did it for a month? And then it's like, no, you got to find long-term ways to do things. So I think that a lot of starting a business, we get lost in the destination, like how crazy and fun and how much it'll pay off once we sell the business, become millionaires, this and that. But the journey is what really makes us appreciate the process of getting through those days when it's not all fun games. It's not easy, and you have weeks or months at a time when things are going bad. And I feel that way in the gym too sometimes. But the journey is really where the results are built. And I think that once you reach the end of whatever that goal you're kind of looking for, if there even is one, it makes you really appreciate the days when things aren't going so great.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing that struggle, overcoming those restrictions that either seem a part of the world that you're, coming up against, or a limitation of yourself that you're coming up against, and then overcoming that is a real feeling of success, even when it's not measured in a certain dollar outcome in the gym. um, and because I say that because I think entrepreneurs, we can sometimes be only looking at the numbers, but I think a feeling can also work for that feeling of success is also valid, data that you've achieved success. Like, you feel good about your workout, you feel good about the progress you've made in your business. So it seems like we started to transition into the next of the four F's that we talk about here on Entrepreneur in Action. So we talk about finance, that was your business, and it seems like we're already starting to talk a little bit about fitness. So tell me about, as an entrepreneur, right? We sit a lot, we're at our computers a lot, and that can take a toll. So what do you do, Erik? What works for you? How are you able to stay fit and keep your energy? Tell us about your fitness aspects.
Yeah, so my passion for health and fitness has stemmed years before my passion for business, actually. And they were directly intertwined because I actually had a business before Saturday Sweets, and it was a supplement company. Because I was like, I want to create something that I care so much about, and I think I can do better. So I launched this supplement company in the unfortunately, I launched it 3 days before the lockdown started in 2020. So it killed the entire business when gyms shut down. People stopped buying pre-workouts. It didn't work out, but it led me to Saturday Sweets, and I'm
Right.
grateful for how that happened. But anyways, I fell in love with going to the gym right after I finished high school. I was about 17, and my good friend had taken me with him a few times, and I just had always been fixated on like those hyper masculine dudes that could like take off their shirt and just captivate a whole room, or go on the beach and everybody would be looking at them. I always wanted that for myself, but didn't really know how to achieve it. And I think that with health and fitness, there seems to be so much bad information that it's hard to discover what actually works, what the truth is. And I wanted to figure out how I could achieve that for myself. Just became addicted with the more progress I saw in my own physique. So I lifted for a few years, not as consistently in college, but that's really where I built the foundation of. I would do some bulks, I would do some cuts, I would get a little bit stronger over the years. And then when I started my path with entrepreneurship, as busy as we get with the days of, you have 10, 12 hours of work to do, or you're up early and staying in the office late, the one thing that's worked for me the best is making it a non-negotiable. So I lift 6 times a week, sometimes seven, but it's always six times a week, at least Monday through Saturday. And I have a routine where I'll leave my office around 4:30. I drop off orders for the day at the post office, and the post office is right next to the gym. So it's so easy for me to just go hit the post office and go straight to the gym. And I'll pack for the day, bring my clothes, bring some meals with me, so I don't need anything. I don't need to have to go home for anything. And it is a non-negotiable. So that works with my routine because I also really enjoy working out. It's the one thing of the day that I look forward to, and it doesn't feel like a chore at all or something I have to force myself to do. And that would be the other big component of, if it comes easy and naturally for you to do it, and you're excited to do it, you're going to be so much more inclined to actually do it. So I think if we can kind of train our brains to get that reward and feel good about exercising, about taking care of your body, it only helps everything. It helps how you perform with your business. It helps your relationships. It mitigates stress, and we just feel so much better physically. And I think that is such an important pillar that a lot of people don't capitalize on or try to maximize until later on in their lives, when it's so much harder to do that with your health and fitness, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing, and what a wonderful gift you gave yourself to start so early, right? End of high school. That's kind of like when your body's finished growing in height.
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people don't grow too much after age 17, 18 in height. But therefore, you're not like taking away your growth. Like sometimes like gymnasts or something, like they don't get very tall. And maybe it's because they're expending all their energy into their body in terms of like building muscles so that they can do those gymnastics routines. But you're not risking that at age 17, 18. So it's kind of like the perfect time for you to get started and get on your gym routine. So how did you like get started? Like you said, you were looking for like what works and what doesn't work. Like, tell us more about that.
I got started because of my really good friend. He started taking me to the gym with him. He'd actually been lifting for a couple of years. And so I tagged along for some of his workouts, but he taught me a lot of what I know now. And I'm very lucky that I had a friend like that, an influence who could share some really good knowledge with me because it would have made it so much harder to figure it out on my own. But that was kind of how I got started. And then I would learn from him for a few months at a time when we were home from summer breaks in between, college or, and then just getting addicted to the results only fueled the passion for it. So when I would see myself get stronger and bigger and the clothes start feeling a little bit tighter and like, oh, I got to size up now, like that was a really cool feeling for me. And I wanted to experience more and more of that. And I still do today. So when that passion for it exists, you want to fuel it as much as possible through education, through meeting friends who are doing similar things, through like maximizing your opportunities just to succeed in that. So through supplements, through, like fine tuning your workouts, anything. And the passion directly fueled like my results. They worked hand in hand together. But I would say for anybody who wants to get started, it's never too late. First of all, I mean, even starting today, I'm 27. I would much rather start today instead of next year or 10 years from now because it's going to be so much harder then, and you'll reap so much more of the reward if you started today. There's some stupid saying that the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time to plant the tree is today. And it's the exact same thing for taking care of your body from a health and fitness perspective.
Yeah. So you found yourself like going with your friend. So you're socializing, you were learning because your friend had some really cool information they were sharing with you. And then also you were building your body. So you were overcoming all these like limits or and having fun along the way. And so you built up this like pattern for yourself so that it's non-negotiable. You go 6 7 times a week. So what if somebody wants to start today, and you're somebody also, you made a business around fitness because you've had a supplements business as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you tell somebody who like either has started before and quit and they're trying to get back to the gym, or somebody who's just starting at the gym? Like, how would you kind of inspire them? Like, what are the things that would help you to be inspired to get started? Say you didn't have that one friend, like how would you get in there?
Yeah, well, first of all, you don't have to start and go from 0 to 100. Meaning on day one, you don't have to be in there for 3 hours. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to be in there 7 days a week as you're getting started. It's okay to just go a couple times, get the feel for it, and see how you can modify your schedule to make it more of a consistent thing. And then over the course of a few weeks or a few months, maybe increase the frequency of how often you go. And that's also as you do it more, it'll become more comfortable. You'll start to learn more about food and nutrition and start to think of things that you wouldn't have thought of on day one. So there needs to be a sense of patience in the process that a lot of young kids, including myself when I first started, it's tough to have that patience. That we want to live for a few months and then be that jacked bodybuilder that we could see on like a magazine cover or like an Instagram influencer. And the reality is it just doesn't work like that. But that doesn't mean you should not get started in the first place. And you certainly can look like that, 5, 10 years in the future. But most importantly, be patient with it and don't feel like it has to be all or nothing from the very beginning. And then I think that after that, it's a big mentality shift for me where I never felt like I was good enough in the gym. Like I always wanted to get bigger. I wanted to get leaner. I wanted to get a little bit stronger. And I never got complacent with my progress. So that made me feel like there was always more work to do. And I think that overlaps into my business a bit too, where they work synergistically of complacency can be the silent killer for stuff like health and fitness, getting results in the gym, and growing a business where you don't have somebody watching over you. You don't have somebody telling you what to do. And because of that lack of complacency, I always felt like there was more to do. I wanted to get more results with my health and fitness. I wanted to get a little bit leaner. I wanted to get this and that. So that fueled me internally to learn more, to watch more workout videos, to figure out how I can do the whole process better. So as great as results can be, it's kind of like that destination versus a journey reference I mentioned previously, where if somebody's trying to lose weight and take care of their body, or let's say they lose 50 pounds and that was their goal 6 months before they started. Once they lose that 50 pounds, are they going to stop going to the gym then? Well, if they do, they're just going to gain it back. So we need to be thinking more like long-term about how we can have and implement these consistent routines for years at a time and hopefully decades, not just for a couple weeks or a few months.
So I actually experienced something like that. Like if I somehow my weight changes by 5 or 10 pounds, like if I could maybe if I got a cold, right, and I was just like laying in bed, I don't know how it works out that I lose weight when I'm just laying in bed, but that can happen, right? 10 pounds are gone and I don't know where they went, but they'll come right back. So
Mhm.
I'm curious, like, I've never like tried to cut at the gym, but I'm curious, like, why do people cut at the gym? But also, like, how do you stop it from coming back? Like, how? Like, I have no idea how weight comes back to me. How would you stop it from coming back if you wanted to?
Yeah, so I think homeostasis is a very real thing in our bodies. And all that means is that our bodies want to stay the same. Whatever they're like today is how they're programmed to want to stay the same. So if you're super overweight and you've been overweight for, years or decades, like your body's just used to being that size and that living that way. So it wants to stay that way. And it could be anywhere on that spectrum of health and fitness too. So when somebody gets sick for a few days and they lose some weight, it's probably because they don't have much of an appetite when they're sick. You're probably losing a lot of water weight as well, and some of the fat from not eating for a few days. But once we return to our normal lifestyles, it's going to come back the same way and get back to that homeostatic place because that's the way our body wants it to be. Now, that doesn't mean you can't change because, I've seen myself make significant changes in my body in a matter of months, but it just takes work. It takes work and time. Like you have to literally make a change with the amount of food you're eating or your output of exercise. One of my favorite topics to tell people is when it comes to fat loss. A lot of people think that it's really just about cardio, like how many miles you run or how long you sit on the bike, and how much you sweat. The reality is that while cardio is a great tool for fat loss, it's not the most important tool and the only tool in the tool belt. For example, when I want to lose some fat and get a little bit leaner for summer or whatever the reason is, it really goes all to diet. How much food you're eating of the whole calories in versus calories out idea. And what that means is you got to understand your calorie maintenance, how many calories your body needs in a day to stay exactly the same. And then over time, if you just eat less calories than what that number is, over time, that's how you lose fat. It's not a complicated equation. It's actually quite simple. So cardio can certainly help you burn calories and help you achieve that calorie deficit, but it's not the only tool to get the results. Um, it's tough because there is so much wrong information in health and fitness and these companies that spend millions on marketing saying this protein powder is going to get you jacked like this guy on the label. And I wish there was more regulation for stuff like this because it makes it so difficult for people to understand what actually works and what they should actually focus on and even spend their money on to get the results that they're looking for.
So losing weight, I'm hearing the simple equation is make sure that you're taking in fewer calories than you are expending through your day.
Yeah,
So
no cardio necessary. You don't have to do any cardio. Like when I try to lose fat, I usually do very little, if any, cardio at all, and it's just all about what I eat in a day.
so it's your body's built in the kitchen as opposed to being built in the gym. Yeah, I think it's fantastic insight. But so okay, so just to go a little deeper with this, all right, say the 10 pounds come off through whatever means. I spend a week sick, or I spend a week like reducing my calories, so I'm burning more calories than I'm eating. Now what? Now I'm 10 pounds down, and I don't want to gain the 10 pounds back. What's going to keep the pounds off?
Yeah, I mean, there are certain things you can do to increase your metabolism, I would say, to increase like that calorie maintenance of what you need in a day to stay the same. So over time, like if the higher you make your calorie maintenance, the better and easier it would be to maintain that physique you're looking for. For me, for example, my maintenance is around 3,000 to 3,300 a day. So if I eat 3,000 calories, I should stay about the same with my level of activity, with how my body just processes things. But I'm a taller guy. I'm 6'2". I weigh about 215 pounds. So it just takes more fuel, more calories for my body to simply exist compared to, a short woman that maybe weighs about 100 pounds. She's going to require a lot less. That being said, some of the things you can do to increase your metabolism and just make it easier to keep the weight off would be having consistent workouts. It doesn't have to be bodybuilding or weightlifting. It could be cardio. It could be whatever kind of style of sports or whatever kind of workouts you enjoy, as well as using the steam and sauna rooms. Not every gym has them, but I use those after every single workout at my gym, and I love them. It increases your metabolism. It sweats out a lot of water weight too, and it does burn a little bit of calories just by you sitting there compared to not sitting in there. Not that it's a proper substitution for cardio. It's not, but it does help some of those things that you get from doing cardio. And I'm a huge fan of fasting as well, intermittent fasting. where you go for the majority of the day, at least 16 hours, but up to 1 or 2 days. Like I've done 48 hours of no food, not very often, but fasting helps boost your metabolism. It helps kind of like limit your total calories for the day. So there are some lifestyle changes like that that you can implement to help keep weight off, but it goes back to being sustainable. You got to do that and implement those things for years, not just for a couple weeks, because our bodies want to go back to that homeostatic place of being the same. But you can train your body, you can build it to be completely different than what it was before. It just takes different stimulus and time to make that happen.
So it's not a quick fix, but there are, even though there are, and that's I think what's tempting for people to hear, right? Like I can fast for 2 days, and that's going to change things in a real way. But it's not just that fast, and it's not just intermittent fasting for a couple months. This is over a period of years and decades that real long-term results happen, which makes sense because you're looking for long-term results. You can't expect that long-term results that appear and show up in your body and make you look a certain way for years and decades are going to just happen, in this like 1-2 day, few month period, and then your body's just your body's set for life. Now you have to keep doing it. You still go to the gym 6-7 times a week, even though you've been doing it for years. There's not like a cutoff where you can go, I've built myself to this level. Now I never have to go to the gym again.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful thing of it is because it really is all about the journey. There is no destination when it comes to health and fitness. And my one of my good friends and I joke at the gym, we're like, if because we both have pretty muscular physiques, I would say, and we joke like if you gave somebody our bodies, they wouldn't be able to maintain it because it takes so much work to work out 6-7 times a week to have the diets that we have and the stimulus to just to maintain it. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And a great example is the TV show The Biggest Loser. I used to watch it with my family when I was growing up. We have all these overweight contestants who come on the show, and the whole point of the show is to figure out who can lose the most weight, and they'll crown like a winner and prize money. So you watch them work out, you watch them get tempted with food, and it's that whole thing. But what they realized, and the really interesting part for me to see from a health and fitness perspective, was that a lot of the contestants after the show, when they went back home, they would put the weight back on because they had this dream setup on the show where they're not working, they don't have a job, they don't have any kind of family distractions. They have chefs cooking them food, and they have personal trainers who are showing them exactly what to do in the gym. But then when they go back home, all of that goes away, and they're in the exact same situation that they weren't before that caused them to put on the weight in the first place. So it just goes to show you that you can have perfect conditions and get incredible results in a matter of even a few weeks or a couple months, as they clearly did on the show. But that's not real life. So when you want to think about those long-term effects and changes, you got to figure out how to incorporate those elements with your day-to-day life so you can do it for years on end and not just for a couple weeks or a couple months for a TV show.
That's awesome. One real quick question, because you mentioned fasting. Like, what do you do to like break your fast? Like, if you fast for 48 hours, how do you come down from that? Obviously, you don't want to like eat a pizza at that time. How do you break a fast after that?
Well, it's funny you mention that because sometimes I have broken it with a pizza. The pizza is my weakness, and I just love like sometimes after I've eaten clean for a few days and I'm really happy with that, I'll treat myself with a pizza or something I really enjoy because it's life. We don't want to sacrifice everything. The 48-hour fast is a little bit different because you are right, your stomach's gonna be very vulnerable at that time. So you usually want to break it with something a little bit cleaner, like some simple fruit. I've heard is a great thing. I'll do a 40-hour fast once every few months just to kind of reset my body and clean out. I actually did one a few weeks ago, but before that it had been a few months. But most commonly, sometimes I'll just fast all day and then have one big meal, like a late dinner after I've done all my work in the office, after I've hit the gym and worked out. And for that meal, I'm not very selective with eating, breaking the fast with fruit or this and that instead. And like I said, if I've eaten clean for a few days and have been fasting good for a few days, then I might treat myself with a pizza or something that I really enjoy because I get a lot of satisfaction from food. And even though I have such a big passion for health and fitness, I've worked out ways that I can incorporate the foods that I love into my weekly lifestyle. And that's important to me because I don't want to be eating chicken, broccoli, and rice every day for decades of my life. Like I want to eat the pizza. I want to have a few pieces of candy here and there. So I had to get creative and figure out like how can I still do that, but still being happy with how I look and my health and fitness goals.
That's the whole point, really, of me for doing this podcast is really just like kind of like to hold up that mirror. In a way, there's a lot of points for me. There's a lot of reasons why I want to do this podcast, because I love meeting new people and love talking with people about their businesses and their lives and just like finding out cool new stuff and finding ways to share that with others. But I do think that it's really important to be balanced as we're approaching entrepreneurship because it's easy for people to get over focused just on their business and you can like let the rest of your life just fall apart if you're only focused on one thing. And so that is kind of part of the reason for the show is like let's take a look at all these aspects of your life. This is a snapshot. It's not about like, hey, we expect perfection here in every aspect of your life. You got to be 10 out of 10 on your business and 10 out of 10 in your fitness and 10 out of 10 in fun. Like it's not about that. It's just like, hey, let's check in. Let's see where you're at now. You and I might have another interview like next year or two, and you might be in a completely different place in all four areas of your life. Hopefully better in every area, but that's kind of like the point here. Like let's talk about being well-rounded. And so let's move on to the next of the four F's, which is family. Tell me about like what are your like family goals? You're 27 now, like you've got your own business and you've been working really hard in your fitness and in your business. What have you been doing towards whatever your family goals are?
Yeah, and I love that you said the word well-rounded, and I think that's been a theme of what I'm working towards myself. And while I have strengths in the fitness pillar and I'm heading there with the business kind of financial one, that can come at a cost of some of the other pillars like family, like relationships. And I think that it certainly has come at a little bit of a cost with me, where I sacrifice so much of my time on the business and then have a couple hours in the gym that by the time I get home, I'm pretty gassed and I don't have a lot of energy to do a whole lot else. So I don't really date a whole lot. I don't really spend as much time as I'd like with my family that I have in the area, just because I have other kinds of priorities right now. And in all transparency, that might be something that I regret later on, especially if things with business perhaps doesn't work out. But it's a sacrifice because I think that it is so difficult to try to maximize all of those different pillars, especially at the same time. But that's really the goal of what I'm trying to work towards is, okay, like I've mastered the health and fitness. Maybe in a few years, the financial business one will be checked off as well. And then kind of move into the other ones where I know I'm not as strong at. So I'd like to have a stronger sense of community, especially. That's one thing that I lack with this lifestyle of doing your own business, being on your own all day. There's not a whole lot of sense of community, of having coworkers, of having groups of people in different kinds of environments that I can resonate with. So that's a priority of something I think like the next thing to check off after business, I would say. But I'm also aware that I need to get better with certain things. I think it'd be foolish to sit here and tell you that everything's perfect and I'm this well-balanced man when I know that there's a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah. So sense of community feels like it's one of the first steps that you're looking at right now. Like what can you do? Like, what are you thinking might be an ideal way to move forward with that? Like what could be an ideal situation? Like you don't have coworkers. So you're a solopreneur right now working your business. What's that next step forward? What can make you feel more fulfilled in this aspect?
Yeah, it's really simple things. I mean, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Stuff like even joining like going to a local run club. That would be something I would love to do. I love playing spike ball, which is that sport where you hit the ball on this net, usually on the beach. Like that's one of my favorite things to do. And I want people to like play that with. I don't really go out to bars or clubs. So I'm not big on like drinking and that kind of scene. And I think that's where a lot of people usually meet people and make friends and date. But because I don't really do that, engage with it, I'm missing out on a lot of those connections as well. So, yeah, I'm just interested. I like keeping busy. I like doing things, especially outdoors and activities. And a lot of it is related towards like physical movement or activity, but that's kind of how my brain is wired. And I guess I know those things like that exist. I think it just takes effort for somebody to search them out and to put themselves in that position of vulnerability of doing something for the first time, and especially doing it alone when maybe you're not there with your best friend. So those are some examples of things that I'd like to do, just to have different kinds of social groups. Since I don't have coworkers, not yet, Since I work out in the gym, I have friends in the gym, but for the most part, I like just listen to some music and focus on my workout. But I often wish I had more of a social network. I think just to escape some of the entrepreneurial life, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I think it's it could be one of the risks of entrepreneurial life is that feeling like it could feel lonely at times. And exactly what you've described, I think is very relatable for probably everyone listening. And so I do have some good news because I just talked to somebody recently who was saying that run clubs, at least in his area, he's not in the Bay Area. I think he's in Virginia. But he said that he's seeing a lot of run clubs become very popular.
Mm.
And not only is it like a place to like be active and meet potential friends, but he said that these are, in his view, this is like replacing dating apps, and a lot of people
Yeah,
are joining run clubs and like getting dates. So maybe what you've already mentioned is like a path forward for some of the things that you just talked about, right? You could join a run club and meet friends and have activity partners and maybe find some dates. Maybe that's like a one-stop shop, at least one idea for one.
you get the workout in, you get the friends, and maybe you get a date out of it. That's a lot of stuff right there. It could be a very lucrative club.
Can't beat it. Yeah, it's a good
Uh,
ROI. uh, but yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Like in the gym, like I want to put my headphones on too, and I just want to focus. There are a lot of cool people though at the gym, and I have actually like met people at the gym by taking out my headphones and just like walking up to somebody. In my case, it was somebody I knew because my trainer also worked with this other guy and was like, "Hey, he's an entrepreneur," and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna interview him. I'm gonna see if I can." So it was really scary, Eric. I was like, "Am I really doing this?" I took out my headphones. I think he had his headphones on, and I was like, put my hand. I was like, "Hey, man, I know you from this. Do you want to?" And he was very gracious. He was like, "Yeah, sure, sure." We wrapped it up pretty quick, but it is possible to approach people at the gym. It was super scary for me. Maybe less scary for you because you've already got some friends at the gym. I talked to nobody at the gym, so I was so scared.
well, I'm so glad you did that because I think that in the gym, especially, you're on one of two sides. There's very rarely in the middle of like either you want to put your head down, you don't want anybody to talk to you because you're here to work out, you gotta get in and out quick. Or on this side, you have people who do look at it more of like a social opportunity to make connections, to have conversations, and they go there to like want to interact with people. And I bounce between it. So it kind of depends on the day, to be honest. But I think that approaching in general is something that I wish more people were receptive to and willing to participate in. I'm trying to get better at it myself, not just with women and not just in the gym, but anywhere. I mean, any times when you have the opportunity to brighten somebody's day and deliver a genuine compliment or ask a question or get an introduction to somebody that you find very interesting. I think that we're with all of the social disconnection of in-person stuff these days and where everything's become more virtual online, we're losing a lot of the strength and the skills to interact socially in person. And I don't want to let that slip away from myself. So I often push myself to reach that kind of boundary um, of approaching and wanting to get better at that because I know how valuable it can be. And sometimes it's not going to work out, but the opposite side, I've had plenty of interactions in the gym too, people approaching me, and it turns into a really cool conversation, a cool friend. And I just want to create more of that. So I'm glad that you are doing that same thing for yourself because you'll never know what it turns into.
Absolutely. And the only thing that you know what it turns into is if you do nothing. If you
Mm.
take no action, that's the only predictable outcome. You're going to get nothing. But if you send out that cold email, if you make that cold call, if you walk up to another person and say, "Hi, I'm Eric," that's when you enter the realm of the unknown. And it could be something amazing that's on the other side of it. And, oh, you'll never know until you take that action.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I like social approaching cold is I think one of the biggest fears that like a guy has if he has to go talk to a girl. It's gonna be gut wrenching for him, but when you do it, you realize it's really not that bad. It's just you overthink it in your head and you don't know what to say, and then you're worried about making a fool of yourself. But once you do it a few times, it becomes easier, and it's I think in any opportunity, you just always want to be ready to have something to say to meet somebody because I'm like my lifestyle right now is very independent and pretty lonely, and I crave a lot of the social interaction. So even sometimes just going to the grocery store and saying something to somebody who's looking at the Greek yogurt with you, like that can be incredibly valuable for not just yourself, but you never know what it means to the other person as
So
well.
what do you say? You're at the grocery store, you've got Greek yogurt, they're looking at Greek yogurt. What do you say to that person?
It could be anything. It really doesn't have to be anything complicated, but just play dumb and be like, "Excuse me, I haven't tried this brand before. Have you had it? Is it any good?" And go from there. Just go from there.
Yeah.
Or a genuine compliment, I think always goes a long way too. And that can be in any environment. Hey, really love your shoes. I haven't seen those before. Where'd you get them? People love to talk about themselves. And if you can get them open up to talk about themselves, something about them, and you're genuine about it, like don't make it seem like you have some kind of an agenda or you're trying to get something from them. I think people can pick up on when there's something fishy going on with it.
Yeah, and I like the first part. Like you speak to like people. I think want to help people in general. So when you say like, I haven't tried this brand before. Sorry, do you mind telling me like, is it any good? Have you tried it? Like people want to share insights. I think it's I don't know like it's some kind of like deep human thing that we do. So it's not you probably people aren't probably going to get a big rejection, and if you do, that's part of it too, right? They could say, no, I sorry, I don't have time, gotta go, right? But maybe they're gonna respond positively, and then like you said, it could be the start of a conversation that who knows where that can go.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the rejection is a great thing to embrace too, because I think rejection has been a theme of my entire life, but that's what makes you resilient, and that's what makes you less afraid of it in the future. Especially when you're trying to start a business, you're going to get so much rejection, and so if you let it get you down and have all this negative influence in your mind, then it's not going to work out because I think everybody gets rejected when they're trying to do something new or do something different. So the more we can just bulletproof our brains and build up our self confidence and belief in who we are and what we bring to the table, I think it's going to set us up for all kinds of success, not just in business, but in relationships, in your health and wellness, and everywhere.
So tell me what it looks like. Okay, so I mean, we all face this, but let's just do a couple of examples, right? So, what type of rejection is something that you would need to be bulletproof against? Like, if somebody's just sending out a cold email and the other person doesn't reply, like that might not be enough for somebody to like take take it personally, or But what is a rejection where you've had where you felt like you needed to level up your ability to be resilient?
Yeah, a great example actually is I think I mentioned to you I was on this business TV show. It's actually airing tomorrow on Amazon Prime. It's called 60 Day Hustle. And the whole point of the show is you're competing against other entrepreneurs to learn about business topics. And in the show, a little spoiler, because I think when people are listening, it'll probably be out anyways. I get eliminated at some points. And when you get eliminated, it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Like there's other people, other businesses here that are better than me, that better than mine. But those were the initial emotions. I think when I had time to reflect on it and really understand and process it in a different way, like I was so grateful to be in that opportunity in the first place, to be selected out of hundreds of applicants, to make the top 12, to be even believe that I would have a chance at winning. Like it meant a lot to me when I positioned it that way. Now, on the other side, on a more like common day to day experience of rejection, I send out a lot of samples to retailers. I am constantly sharing my candy with the world, and a lot of times it's not a good fit. People just might not be their favorite thing that they've ever tasted. They don't think it's going to perform well in their stores. They don't want to place an order after they've tried it, and that's okay. Just because a handful of people don't think it's the right fit for them, what they're looking for, doesn't mean that for the other 95% of people that they wouldn't love it. And I think that we hyperfixate on those rejections because those what hurt the most. It hurts a lot more than the wins you get from the times that people say yes. And we remember that more often than our wins. So I think just desensitizing ourselves from rejection and not taking it personally. Like when retailers don't want to bring on my candy after they've tried it, maybe they've never met me. They don't know who Erik is as a person. We've probably exchanged a few emails, maybe had a phone call, but it's nothing of my character or life story that they're rejecting or saying it isn't good enough. It's probably just a numbers thing, and maybe they didn't like the taste of one of the flavors. So I think just not taking it personally is a huge deal, or it keeps me grounded as
I
well.
think those examples are tremendous. And as you said, right, you're on the show, and we're gonna make sure that we air this after the show because we don't want to be a spoiler for the work that you put in on that on the 60-day hustle. But now I am excited to watch it. But so yeah, you're competing against other entrepreneurs, and it's this is like millions of people can see this show. It's very heightened, and so a rejection where you're feeling like, hey, there are so many eyes on me is different even than a rejection where like nobody's watching and you're just like, hey, is this a good, is this a good Greek yogurt? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Like nobody saw that. Doesn't matter. It didn't happen, right? But but there's
Yeah,
a
you're
million
right.
people.
I've been rejected on national TV with potentially millions of people watching. I mean, it doesn't really get much more. If you want to say that's embarrassing or a lot to lose, whatever you want to say, it doesn't get much more significant than that. So, I mean, if I can handle that, then who cares if the cute girl at the Greek yogurt section in the grocery store doesn't want to say hi to you? Like, it doesn't, it's not even the same thing.
Yeah. So how did you handle it? Like, what did you do? Like mentally, did you prepare yourself before you went in there? Like, okay, I could be rejected from here, and I, like, I don't want to like feel like I've really lost something, of me. This is an opportunity. Like, how did you prepare yourself? How did you do it in the moment? And then sound like, afterwards you were like, well, hey, I was just glad to be there. But tell us all the ways like throughout and from before you did it, when you do it, and after you did it. Like, how did you keep yourself mentally strong? Uh, you know, in this competition where there was a rejection possibility and in fact a rejection.
Yeah, I think that before it even started, I had I thought it was possible. It's like it's possible I could win. This could be the big break I've been looking for that I deserve. And I was really excited for it to start. And then I think as it had started, I got a little bit more realistic in terms of just my chances of winning and seeing how far I'll get. So I didn't want to just get my hopes too high and be so delusionally confident that I was going to win when realistically I probably wasn't going to anyways. After I got eliminated, it did stick with me for a while. Like it kind of felt like I got my heart broken in a weird way, where I was thinking a lot of those thoughts. I was saying, I'm like, man, they didn't think I was good enough. They don't think my business is going to succeed, and my business is an extension of myself. So therefore, they don't think that I'm good enough. So that hurt. But after I started to position it a different way, it took me a few days to kind of make that connection. Um, I was doing a lot of journaling. I was just processing it, and I think the most important thing that I learned is that I want to be saying a lot more like yes, being receptive, saying yes to opportunities instead of saying no for fear that it's not going to work out. Like another example that I had that came to mind was in the about a year ago, I was Saturday Sweets was selected as a top 10 finalist for Coremark Curated. Coremark is one of the largest distributors for convenience stores. So they have this program where they brands can apply, and if they think you have a really innovative new kind of product, they'll invite you to their headquarters to be a potential winner in this curated program, they call it. So I was out of hundreds of applicants. Saturday Sweets was selected as a top 10 finalist, and we had to do a pitch in front of a room full of their executive board and all kinds of people evaluating other businesses. I unfortunately did not win, but that rejection hurt too. I had spent a good amount of money to fly out there. I'd spent weeks building this presentation and practicing, rehearsing, and I knew the opportunity that if I'd won, it was a very significant opportunity for the business that would have probably changed the trajectory of it forever. So as much as it hurt that I didn't win, I was so proud of myself to even have been selected as the top 10 and to be there and to pitch in that and have the chance to win. And I think that I know that if it's not that opportunity, there's going to be another one in the future. I just have to be willing to say yes and to take some risks, whatever those risks be, whether it's financial or time or, putting yourself in front of a TV show where you don't know what's going to happen. You're really uncomfortable, but like these opportunities now, I'm trying to say yes to everything I can because one of them could be the big break that I've been looking for.
I think that's amazing perspective on it. And I love that you had already had one experience that you put everything into, and you were like, it didn't just because it didn't work out. You were like, that doesn't mean I shouldn't keep saying yes. So what do I need to feel is I need to feel successful and be proud that, that you were selected and that you got that chance to be that top 10 finalist and you took the risk to buy the ticket and to you know to do the pitch. And those things didn't hurt you, right? Like you got travel experience, you got to meet executives at a company that could help you in amazing ways if the partnership worked out ideal in an ideal way. And then also you built your pitch for your product. Like that's not hurting you to 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 practice your sales techniques and to find ways to do that partnership marketing. And then so you took that previous experience and then you went ahead and applied it to the next, even a bigger, right, platform where like lots and lots of people, not just executives in a room, but like anybody who's got a screen can be watching you. And then you kept those lessons though, Eric. You said, I know I keep wanting to say yes to these things because the opportunity could take me to the next level in my business. So, and because you wanted to say yes, you gave yourself permission to get over the feeling of heartbreak and the feeling of hurt, but to know that you wanted to keep putting yourself out there. That is a very powerful framework that you built there,
Thank
and
you.
that's going to see you through to future opportunities.
Yeah, I believe
That's
so.
amazing.
And I've noticed that I've these once in a lifetime opportunities, kind of like the business show, the core mark curated, or opportunities with large wholesale accounts. I realize these kind of come up a lot more than I would have expected them to. So that's why I become okay knowing that if this one doesn't work out, there's inevitably going to be another once in a lifetime opportunity that comes up probably 4, 5, 6 months from now, and I'm going to be in a better position then to capitalize on that one. But yeah, it just comes down to like being willing to take risks, being willing to put in some extra work that somebody else isn't. And it's not, you never know why somebody might reject you. Like if my pitch on that day for Cormark curated that for that opportunity, like maybe I was a little bit, I didn't sleep well and I wasn't as enthusiastic in my pitch. And the judges picked up on that. And that's why they said, didn't pick me as a winner. Well, had I slept better, then maybe I would have won. It could be for any little silly reason that we don't know. And it doesn't mean that I'm not good enough or that Saturday Sweets isn't good enough. All I can do is just get better and use the experience to be in a better position for the next time. So, because these opportunities do come around a lot more frequent than I ever believed that they would.
So moving on to the fun bucket, what do you do for fun? What's the most fun that you've had lately?
The most fun I have on a day to day basis really is my workouts. And I know that's kind of related, that is the health and fitness pillar, but um, I'm serious. I love my workouts. I get excited when I'm drinking my pre workout in my car before I step into the gym. And I love that I can do it every day and it's actually good for me. It's not like I'm sitting down playing video games and just wasting time and not taking care of myself. It does contribute towards the other kinds of pillars that are valuable to me. But outside of that, some of the other things I look forward to that I really love enjoying is I love watching UFC fights on Saturdays. I'm really big into watching MMA, so um, that on a Saturday is something I can look forward to since I don't really go out and to bars and clubs. There's usually fights on Saturday nights, so I might get a pizza and treat myself and watch the fights. Um, I also really like just kind of lounging around by the pool and tanning outside, especially now during summer. And lots of activities too, just things that keep my body physically active, like the spike ball, playing spike ball on the beach is something I wish I could do a lot more of, or running a little bit more consistently. All those kinds of activities are always good for me. And then I do really like to cook as well. I make one of my favorite, I think perhaps the best thing that I make is creme brulee, which I know sounds kind of crazy and random, and especially because I don't bake anything else. It's just the creme brulee, but I make a really good creme brulee. And cooking has always been sort of a way for my brain to explore more of the creative side of thinking and zone out for a little while when after a rough week of business. So when I have time, I love to.
Yeah, I think there's a real feeling of accomplishment, like when you can make something. Like the kitchen is kind of like a tool shed in a way, or like a machinist shop or something like that, but it's with food. And then like you can make this thing and it's special. It tastes good. You made it with love. It's like, it's kind of magical to be able to cook something.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And I think that uh, for me, my father used to work in some restaurants when he was younger, and he worked in like a pizza shop, and then he worked in another real kind of restaurant. So it reminds me of a lot of my childhood memories of him, and he would cook a lot for our family growing up. So it makes me happy to kind of relive a lot of those childhood memories, and exactly the same reason why I work on the candy business too, because it makes me think of all of the happiness and those fond memories I had of eating this candy in Sweden with my family over there. So whatever those like nostalgic childhood memories are for us, I think it's so powerful that we try to keep them alive through business, through relationships, through foods we make, through anything, because nostalgia is a very powerful thing. And I think we all want to feel youthful. We all want to think about how simple life was when we were a kid. And at least I do.
I agree. Yeah, nostalgia is super powerful, and a lot of businesses are, based in, nostalgia, like finding ways to, like, how many movies do you have that are like number two or number three? When like that's nostalgia, or it's like a recycling of some franchise that was out, 20 years ago. It was popular 20, 30 years ago, so they can hit that same generation when they get a little older and indoctrinate the new generation because that's their first time seeing that franchise. So they roll that franchise out another 20, 30 years later. You keep hitting every generation and keeps building because there's always more and more nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a winning part of business. It's also fun. Yeah, yeah. That it kind of shows up inside of our feelings somehow. Like it taps into something special. It's interesting. You said like it's a simpler time. Like when you're a kid, life was simple. Is that just because we don't know stuff?
I think it's because we know more now as we get older. When we were younger, it
Yeah,
was less stressful, less awareness of kind of what's going on. But
thankfully.
yeah, yeah. But fun is also interesting because I think that like sometimes I felt guilty about having fun, where I should be like, why am I not focusing on the business? I have so much work to do. I haven't earned this break, but I think we need those breaks to keep us grounded and to give us that mental refresher in order to come back the following week, the next day, whatever it is, and really just be dialed in. And that's still a balance that I'm trying to figure out how to optimize and like what that balance looks like of giving myself, rewarding myself and allowing myself to take some time off and do what I need to do for myself, but also still prioritizing the business and being 110% committed with my time and doing whatever it takes to make sure it's going to be successful. But it needs to be a balance. It can't entirely be one way or the other.
Yeah, if we're not having fun, then we're not. There's part of our life is cut off, right? And so that's your energy source. It's part of your energy source in a way. I don't know. I could find anybody to be like a hero who was like better in like certain ways. Like maybe they're just amazing at finance, but they have no fun at all ever in their life. Like how would I want to go? How would I want to put that person on a pedestal and say I want to be more like that person if I could see they are miserable. And I've come across people like that in life who are really good at maybe finance and maybe only finance, and the rest of their life like they seem kind of miserable. And so yeah, I mean, I really find value in exploring like how can we balance this as entrepreneurs. And so one of the things you mentioned was that you really have fun in your fitness, and I'm curious, how does that happen? You were able to go to the gym and like you're enjoying it. So for some people that's so far off, like they're at the place of like and dates and day to day. There's sometimes where I'm like, how am I going to get to the gym from where I'm at right now? How do I get out the door and get myself to the gym? But you're having fun, and I want to find ways to help other people be more like that. So how could people have fun with their fitness?
The best thing that's worked for me to have fun with not just fitness, but doing things that you may not want to be doing, is to optimize the experience as much as possible. And what I mean by that is, for example, with fitness, I love like putting together my gym outfit. I'm going to wear clothes that I feel confident in. I'm going to wear my favorite color. And then even after that, like mixing and drinking my pre-workout. I love the experience of being in my car and playing my favorite songs in the car while I'm drinking my pre-workout and getting hyped up. And then even when I'm working out, sometimes like I'll have a little piece of candy with me or a lollipop that I can enjoy as I'm working out, as silly as that sounds, but just to make it all more enjoyable. So I want to optimize the whole experience from start to finish. And that makes it so much easier for me to look forward to doing. So it can be completely different for person to person, but maybe you come up with some kind of internal reward system where, on days where I do this, or after I've gone to the gym for 4 or 5 times this week, then I've earned a pizza or something like that. But just to make it as seamless and reduce the barrier to entry as much as possible. But yeah, like the gym is more of an experience for me, not just some task that I that I dread doing. And I think that's because I put so much effort into maximizing it through the clothes, the music, the pre-workout, how I feel after, that it's become very enjoyable to me for all those reasons.
Okay, so I need to know because I'm behind on several of these things. So I I pretty much wear like really just I just throw a t-shirt in my bag for the shirt, and like I'm kind of ashamed to admit now, like I'll wear the same shorts for like multiple days at the gym. I
No,
probably
that's
shouldn't
fine.
do that.
And you know what? I think that for people who are so busy, maybe, and especially if they're commuting, they have families back home, they're working more than full time, like they may not be able to have the time and the effort to do all of the things that I said work for me. And they just need to get in there, do their 45-minute workout and come out because they have kids at home, they got to cook dinner, they got to get to bed early. And that's totally fine. I think that you just need to do what's conducive for your lifestyle. And if that means that having the same set of clothes, you just have multiples of them in your trunk because that way it's you don't have to think about what you're going to wear and spend more time figuring out your outfit. Like there's nothing wrong with that at all. That just means it works a little bit different for you. But as long as you get in the gym and do what you're there to do in the first place, then that's all that matters.
I don't even know what a pre-workout drink should be. Can you tell me more? Like,
Yeah, a pre-workout is it's usually a tub of like powder, raw powder that you'll take a scoop out and mix it into a bottle of water or a shaker cup and shake it up. It's gonna have some caffeine in it, usually about 200 milligrams, sometimes even more of caffeine. But then there's a whole bunch of other supplements. At least there should be some other supplements in there that do things for your body that are helpful in a weightlifting workout, like beta alanine, citrulline malate, carnitine, all kinds of supplements like that that give your muscles a little bit of a benefit. And then when you combine that with the caffeine is going to give you some energy to have an intense workout, to want to lift a little bit longer, maybe a little bit heavier. So that's what usually what a pre-workout is.
and why would you not drink a protein shake as your pre-workout?
You certainly could. I wouldn't do that personally because I don't like the feeling of having food or kind of calories in my stomach, at least for a few hours before I lift. So I'll try to, if I have a lunch, I'll have like a light lunch 2, 3 hours before I work out. A protein shake, you certainly could. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but you will have that kind of protein in your stomach. And I don't think you're not going to like feel anything like you would with a pre-workout from that protein shake. I think that me personally, I like to have most of my food, most of my nutrients after I lift because that's when I'm the hungriest too. And it just makes sense because I'm really busy all day and I don't like having to stop and have frequent meals, which is why I love intermittent fasting. But I know other people at the gym who need to have like a protein bar or a little bit of fuel in their stomach. So I'll even see guys like walking in, having a protein bar or their snack, just minutes before they're about to work out. So it really depends. I mean, everybody's different. And I think that's one of the beautiful things with health and fitness is there is no one right way to do things. And my routine for getting ready for the gym looks completely different than yours, but we're still doing the same thing of getting our workout in the gym. And that's the most important piece of it.
So it's okay to do like a protein like pre-workout, but it's also in your case, and then what you do is caffeine with other like elements that are supplemental to to lifting.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause sometimes I'm in there for an hour and a half, 2 hours doing my weightlifting, like just a back workout or today will be my leg workout. So sometimes to get me through that, especially when it's really intense and I'm out of breath and I'm just exhausted, I'll need like a pre-workout or something to give me that extra bit of energy for it.
That's really interesting to see, that there could be, it's not like one, as you said, it's not one solution fits all. There can be different solutions and you could just try the different things that might work for you or, consult your like coach to get their take on it too. That's really cool. So let's move into the lightning round, like the big four. So this is like the section where I want to ask you just a question about each of the four F's. And the first one is, what's the best investment you've ever made for your financial health? And this could be like a book or an influencer you follow or like a literal investment, like however you want to take that question to be best investment for your financial health.
The best thing I ever did for my financial health was starting to work at a very young age. And I know that might not be like a very tangible kind of product or one thing, but it kind of came out of a need for necessity. Like my father was laid off from work in the 2008 recession and he never really landed another job after that. So I knew from a very young age when I was in middle school that I had to start working to save up money for college. And because of that, I took every job that I could in my neighborhood. I was working after school. I was working in my high school cafeteria, actually. And I think it instilled a very strong work ethic in me from a young age that has absolutely rolled over and multiplied to make me who I am today. Um, Financially, also, it did prepare me well because I could pay for myself through college without having to take out loans. I'm not drowning in debt. And I was fortunate to be put myself in that position. So I'm not quite sure if that answers exactly, but that was the first thing I think of that. I'm like, that's probably the profound experience I had in relation to financials in my entire life.
That's a perfect answer. Yeah, you had an experience that was unexpected in your childhood, right? Nobody who has a job expects they're going to be laid off. But you were in middle school and you took that as your wake up call. You're like, I'm going to save up for college. And listening to your answer, like it speaks a lot to your character that you would find jobs and you would take jobs, and then that gave you, by taking that action, you gained not only the learning that goes along with doing those jobs, but like a really strong work ethic, which you're
Mm-hmm.
carrying that into everything you do, including your entrepreneurship. And in fact, the immediate goal to not have to be drowning in debt in college, that worked out as well. So that, what a huge win. That takes a lot of pressure off as an entrepreneur. I imagine that you don't feel like you're drowning in debt from some college loans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And the college loan thing it's so scary to me and seems really like there's got to be a better way to do it. But unfortunately, it's the reality for so many people um, getting to school. So it's it's tough. But yeah, I am very grateful that it worked out that way, even though it was pretty challenging for a lot of years growing up.
Yeah, use it to your advantage, which is awesome. So best investment for fitness. What's moved the needle for you?
The best investment I had with fitness was just the natural interest to want to change my body, like the way that I looked, to make myself look better. And I'm sorry again if it's not like a tangible product, because I don't think so much in fit, like there is no one product or one idea that's gonna, one magic pill that's gonna lose the weight or get you the results. It's a combination of so many different things, but it stems back to that drive you have inside of you of wanting to change. Um, I, for example, my father's has been pretty overweight my entire life, and I don't think he ever had like the drive to want to get healthier and to lose the fat. So when I saw him growing up and the struggles he had associated with that, I never wanted to end up like him. Um, and that was a huge motivation for me doing the opposite, to be on the other side of the spectrum. So yeah, it's tough to kind of quantify what that is, but again, another experience, another observation, and making a change, a lifelong change because of it.
I've heard it said that you can make mistakes through experience, but it's even better if you can make mistakes through seeing the results of other people's experience. So, and not everybody can do that, but you did that, right? You saw an example in your life, like your dad was overweight, and you're like, I don't want that for me. And so you took it upon yourself to have the courage to step up and say, I'm not going to do that. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not that. Let me try to figure out another way that works better for me. And it wasn't you. You didn't. You weren't falling down the path of like, oh yeah, if I just take steroids, that'll fix the whole thing, right? You weren't looking for that magic thing, but you were like, let me try this. I'm going to try, going with my friend to the gym. Yeah, that these answers are terrific, by the way.
Thank you.
So, what's your best investment for family?
For family, my best investment has, and I have absolutely no shame in saying this, is that I still live with my parents, especially with how crazy housing prices are here in the Bay Area. It allows me to not just be physically close with them still, but emotionally too. I mean, my parents were never the kind of people that told me that I had to move out at 18, that I could never come back after college. And they've been extremely patient with me with the journey with Saturday Sweets. And I feel like it's given me so many resources still living at home that I can use to funnel into my business to give it the best chances of succeeding. But on a more family specific level, like I still see my parents a lot more often and talk to them a lot more often than had I moved out, because I have moved out before and I know what that life was like when I was away and like across on the other side of the country. So for me to like physically be close with them is a huge asset. But having also just quality parents that have my interest in mind with them and are willing to go a little bit extra to let me still stay with them at 27 years of age, it means a lot.
That's a beautiful gift, right? That your parents have given you, and you also have approached it with respect, right? Because if you weren't being respectful to your parents and showing them that you value this, opportunity, gift, whatever you want to call it, like that you value the thing that they're offering you, like then they wouldn't have invited you back, right? They feel like they love their son, they feel like you love them, and you guys found ways to get along, even though everybody has ups and downs with getting along with their parents and family members. So you found a way to make that work, and it's working out really well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the savings that people can make, and this is why people get married. Why people choose a life partner is because of the savings, right?
Mhm.
Not only is it awesome to find somebody who you love, more than anything, and somebody who you enjoy talking to all the time and experiencing things with, but on the financial side, like it's really smart because you cutting your costs into fractions, right? Oh, let's eat the same stuff tonight. Cool. We're sharing the same housing payment together. Like all these costs get cut down, and it's so smart in just so many ways. So
Yeah.
kudos. That's amazing. So best investment for fun.
Yeah, for me, my best investment, this one is actually going to be like a real product, a real tangible thing. I mentioned I love playing spike balls, so my best investment has been buying a spike ball set. They're under $100 and they're pretty portable. So you bring them to the park, play on the grass, or at the beach, play on the sand, which is even better. I just live about an hour and a half away from the beach, so I don't make it out there very often. But it's so fun for me. Like when I think of things that make me a 10 out of 10 happiness, it's playing spike ball on the beach, and especially because you need other people to play, so it's a great way to make some friends. And I got to look at starting to join a spike ball club or a run club so I can just do more fun stuff with people.
Yeah, you by buying the kit, right? You're sort of like making that's like the foundation for your own club, right? Because you could just show up somewhere and say, "Hey, I've got this game, spike ball. Who wants to play?" And then get people to just play with you right there. Have you done that? Have you had success with this?
I've mostly played with my other friends who like it as well. I haven't played so much with like strangers at the park, but it's definitely something I gotta not be afraid to do. Just approach some people, ask if they want to play. Nothing wrong with that.
What are little kids doing at the park, right? They're climbing around on stuff, and then they say to the other kid, "Hey, you want to play?" And then the other kid, they're going to say yes or no, and then maybe they got a playmate, for however long they're hanging out at the park.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, doesn't have to be complicated.
Mm.
Well, I really appreciate this, Erik. This has been amazing, and so I promised my mentor. The last question I ask at the end of every interview is, "Who do you recommend me to interview next?"
Mm. That's an interesting one. It's funny because I don't really know a whole lot of other entrepreneurs who kind of do what I do, and I wish I did. So I'm not sure if I have an answer if you're thinking of more entrepreneurship and like starting a business, that kind of a story. But I'll pay attention because I'm looking also for other people who are doing similar things to kind of just reinforce my path and connect and share like similar stories. So I'm sorry, I don't know if I have a specific name or somebody that at least that I'm personally connected with that I could even think of right now.
It's all good. Yeah, no, that's terrific. Erik, thank you so much for joining today and for sharing your story and all your insights. I think that the people who watch this and listen to this are going to get a lot out of it. They're going to know parts of you, as the founder of Saturday Sweets Candy that they've never known before through your other social media channels. Where can people find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind feedback. It really means a lot. So if people are interested, they can find Saturday Sweets at our website at SaturdaySweetsCandy.com, or if you're on social media, Saturday Sweets Candy on Instagram and Saturday Sweets on TikTok. They can also find a little bit more about me and the business on a 60-Day Hustle, which is the entrepreneur TV show that I mentioned earlier in the conversation. That's airing on Amazon Prime on their streaming services. So, or my own personal Instagram, which is Erik Thornally, or at E09, ETHORNALLY.
Awesome. Thanks again, Erik, and I'll talk to you next time. Have
My
a great day.
pleasure. Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate your time as well. All right. Goodbye.